It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, July 18th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's breaking down the Flyers schedule.
All right, let's look at it.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here as always with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 20 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And to keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, our long national nightmare is over. Indeed, we do have the NHL schedule for this upcoming season. It took them long enough, but we got here and we're going to break it down. We're going to look at some benchmark dates as well for the Flyers. This is a very critical year in the rebuild, and so those dates are going to be important. Plus, we're going to get to your poll results on the top goals of this season, and those are really interesting, I think. So excited to get to that as well. Now, we do have, interestingly, openers both on the road and home against the defending Stanley Cup champions. That's a hell of a way to get going, right?
It's a hell of a way to get going, and it does make you wonder now of use of some of the young players. Like, are you going to throw them in against Florida? Because I understand things are not necessarily where they're going to be at the beginning of the year, but this is still a team with enough of those guys that it could be an issue. Like, it's a heck of a welcome to the league kind of thing, possibly for Martone if he, were to make the team. I'm not sure he's gonna, but I'm just saying.
We're at least lucky in the sense that that first game for the Flyers is on the road in Florida, but it's not Florida's home opener. They start the opening day of the season. So the Flyers don't have to deal with the banner raising or any of that stuff. So that's good for them. I also think it's good for them in the sense that teams tend to be, as we have seen in the past, a little discombobulated at the beginning of seasons. It takes them a little bit to regel and get going. And the Flyers have been able to take advantage of playing teams in that situation and won those games in seasons past and not too far past too. So I think that there's some opportunities there just because everybody's kind of a little bit of a mess at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, there probably won't be Matthew Tkachuk. I'm sure he's not going to be there, but I still think they're going to be strong. Marchand will be on that. You got Brad Marchand to deal with now. Like, it's still not going to be a walk in the park.
No, I'm just saying the chance is there. The chance is absolutely there. Of course, it's kind of our usual structure that we've got now with a 32-team league with four games against the Metro teams, 3 against the Atlantic teams, 2 a home and away against each of the Western Conference teams. And I think, the name of the game in this year's NHL schedule for everybody is it's crunched again. And the Flyers are, I think, affected by that to a large degree as well. And this is all because of the Olympic break, but they have 14 back-to-backs this year. They had 13 last year. I think, the last 2 games of the season are a back-to-back, which is kind of unfortunate in a lot of ways. But I think it's going to be really difficult for them.
It's a difficult year for everybody, for sure.
Yeah.
Like in an Olympic year, the schedule gets really tight. The Dallas Stars usually are the team that has the worst schedule because of all the different time zones. I can only imagine what theirs looks like. So if you're a Flyers fan, you think we have, they have the worst schedule, go look at the Dallas Stars. I'm sure it's worse. But this is a hard thing for any team. So you almost can make the argument that this is why they're probably going to hold on to 3 goalies because of all these back-to-backs.
Right. And I think interestingly, in addition to those last 2 games of the season being a back-to-back, 2 of the back-to-backs are on each of the 2 major West Coast road trips.
Right.
So that's tough. You're on the road. it's in a different time zone that you may not have fully adjusted to yet. And you have to play a back-to-back in Western Canada and then another one in California later.
I mean, this is a situation where, like in baseball, when it gets late in the season, playoffs, those kinds of things, sometimes teams will fly out a pitcher a day ahead of time to that next location. You could do that with the third goalie and let that guy be totally adjusted and rested. And I might do that if I'm a team.
It is interesting because we've been talking about the Flyers carrying a third goaltender in a little bit of a negative light because of the nature of why the Flyers.
Because of the roster spot. That's why.
The roster spot. And because we prefer to have a skater have that roster spot, but also because of the nature of the circumstances surrounding why the Flyers are going to have to carry the third goaltender. But it could end up in some ways helping them.
It could.
The way the schedule is. And I find that really fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where if they decide to use it for that, I think it would be smart. I would not rip them at all.
No, I think it's going to be wild how this pans out in the end here. They do have a pretty big homestand in December, in early December, of course, before they go on their traditional holiday time West Coast swing, and that's when they're doing the Pacific Northwest and Western Canada on that first road
always a great
trip.
time of the year to go to Western Canada deep in the winter.
Listen, I've done it. I went to a game in Edmonton on December 27th one year, and it was not pretty for my muscles, which froze in -6 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I mean, I was there for the Heritage Classic, and that was the end of November, and I froze.
Yeah. It's going to be rough, but so I do not, begrudge anybody complaining about that trip who goes on it. But I do think, that does give them some opportunities in early December with all those home games. So that's good. Now, the aforementioned Olympic break for the Flyers is February 6th through February 24th, which is significant amount of time.
For fans, that seems like forever, doesn't it? It's like, that's a forever break. Now, you could watch the Olympics and that's good.
Yeah. And there'll be Flyers there. So that'll be good too.
But if people don't want to watch the Olympics then it's a long break.
It is a long break for the NHL. But again, that's kind of what's leading to all of these compressed timeframes for games. So as the Flyers themselves pointed out in their description of the schedule, they've got 3 games in 4 nights 19 times this season. They've got 4 games in 6 nights 24 times this season. Like, that's a lot of hockey in a
short amount of time. This is when sports medicine, sometimes sports science rather, helps out, and you can kind of look at those things. I also think by the time, because you had written in our notes, 56 games is the Olympic break?
Yeah.
By then, you should know exactly what you're going to do at the trade deadline. By then.
Well, we'll get into all of that a little bit later in the show. But
you can't wait for that.
Yeah.
That's my early opinion.
Yeah, we'll get into those benchmarks in the next segment. But I think, it is going to affect everybody in the league. And I think that's the thing you have to kind of hold on to with all of this, is that everybody's in the same boat. And I think the only kind of variation there is that if you look at teams that maybe have nobody in the Olympics, which could be, or, 1 guy or 2 guys versus maybe a team that has 4 or 5 guys in the Olympics, I think that is where the differentiation is going to come into play.
I think so. I think that's fair. Again, this is one of those times where it's like having too many Olympians is not a good thing. Like, that's my overall opinion for the league. That's, I just don't think it's good, because I think those guys come back and they always are banged up. Not always a John Tavares situation where they're out for the year, but a lot of times they're compromised.
Yeah, and we saw that with 4 Nations last year. So, and the Kachucks are a prime example of that. So I think teams are going to want to tread lightly here. And I do think, the physicality and the trainers are going to have a really interesting task on hand for all the teams. But I think for the Flyers,
if you're a team with like 4 players, that's a lot.
Right. And so for the Flyers, we'll see how it turns out in the end with who makes the cut here. But
Right.
it'll be interesting. Just a few kind of weird opponent things, the way the schedule turned out. They don't play Detroit until March. So they've got like crazy,
That is
crazy.
nuts.
It's very weird. There's no New York Rangers games until December 20th.
It just seems weird.
Right. And then because of those 2 early games against Florida, we're actually done with the Panthers November 26th.
Yeah, that's just nuts.
So the schedule is always weird and quirky, but I just found those 3 things.
No, that's
to
really
be
quirky. I'm with you on that.
especially interesting.
Every year,
there.
I'm always like, they're playing their, some of their better rivals later and later in the season for the first time. And it's like they did it with the Penguins last year, right? It just seems weird.
Yeah, although this year I find that the distribution of the Metro opponents is a lot better than
Okay.
it has been in the past. There's a good mix of teams at the beginning of the season
Okay.
and toward the end of
That's
the
good.
season. So I feel like that's the one thing that they've improved at a little bit with this schedule over last year. But there's so much more to talk about. We're going to get into those benchmarks. We're going to get into the schedule reveal videos and league-wide highlights in the overall NHL schedule coming up next. We have all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, and that's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting those concert tickets faster and easier than ever, and prices actually drop the closer it gets to your showtime. You can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals, and if you're tired of endlessly scrolling, trying to find the best deal, Gametime Zone Deals pick the best seats in that section you want. And if you wonder what your seat view is going to look like before you buy it, the app can show you a panoramic view, so there's no surprises. With Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay with no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. On our shows next week, we're going to kind of look at the overall vibe of the Flyers and where we're at right now. Like, we've described the Flyers a little bit as being in the mushy middle of this rebuild. And what does that mean? And what does that mean for the team and what they have to do moving forward? So we're going to dig into a lot of that next week. Plus, on Monday, we're going to have our new nemesis of the week and a new poll question to get to. So very excited for that on the Monday show. Now, Russ, you talked about the trade deadline, or excuse me, the Olympic break, and the trade deadline as important benchmarks. And I think given that mushy middle that we're going to get into, right, these benchmark dates in the Flyers schedule are going to be especially important. I think kind of the first time we're going to really evaluate where the Flyers are and do they need to make changes, at least to me, in this year, is going to be the Christmas break in December, which is the 24th to the 27th.
Yeah, I think that definitely will be the first time. And I think, honestly, if I'm a team, this is the last time, unless I'm 2 or 3 points out of the playoffs. If you're not, you might as well start making plans and start calling, because I think some of that will go on during the Olympics. Now, if they're technically not allowed to like talk about NHL business on the Olympics,
I'm sure
all you have to do is go to the Olympics and they'll all just sort of meet up somewhere. It's like you can't stop it. So I think if I was a team, that's what I would do and start thinking about it then.
Right. So you have that Christmas break, December 24th to 27th is when you're going to first kind of do like a gut check of where the team is. Now, I understand kind of you look at maybe at the end of November, like Thanksgiving, some people do that. But I think with the Flyers, you got to go a little further in the season.
I think so too.
Especially given all the changes.
Young players,
to the team,
changes, new coach.
Coach, all of that, right?
Yes.
So to me, that's why I'm picking Christmas. And then the halfway point in the season is Tuesday, January 6th against the Anaheim Ducks, which I find deliciously ironic.
It is ironic.
To this conversation, right? Because you're like, that's the team we've made all those deals with. We have the Cutter Gauthier specter. Remember the game last year, which was one of the highlights of last season. like by far in terms of game experience, and the way it went for the Flyers. We have the Trevor Zegras of it all. There's this Flyers Ducks dynamic that has developed, and so for the halfway point in the season to be against the Ducks, I think is fitting in a lot of ways.
Well, and some people are keeping that Mason McTavish stuff alive, but I just have to caution Flyers fans that if you do want McTavish, it's probably going to cost you Luchenko. Like you're not getting them for a song and a dance or picks. It's not going to be like that.
Right. And so I do think that's going to be a lot of fun, that game on January 6th. So that'll be our halfway point. And then the Olympic break that we talked about in February is after 56 of the 82 game season. And I think that's like where the rubber meets the road here for the Flyers in terms of, okay, on this break, we have to have our game plan together for trade deadline. Are we buyers? Are we sellers? And start grinding those gears and figuring out the next steps for this team.
Yeah, know that at that point so that you can start to do these things. Even if you're going to the Olympics, some GMs will be there, I'm sure. And you start talking, or the agents will be there. You can start talking to the agents, start talking. Like that's the time. So yeah, well, you just have to see where the team is at. But it just seems like that's the clear point because I think if you wait until after the Olympics, guys are banged up, it's going to affect how your team plays, all teams, and you don't have a lot of games before that actual deadline hits. You don't.
No. So the end of the Olympic break is February 24th, and March 6th is that trade deadline. Not a lot of time, and especially to your point, if guys are banged up from the Olympics.
They miss games. A lot of times they miss games after the Olympics. They probably missed 2 or 3 games. What are we talking? 5 games, something like that? I mean,
Well, and guys that may or may not be on the trading block if they get hurt during the Olympics, or guys that aren't playing in the Olympics have gotten hurt, and they have to keep those guys that were on the trading block, in order to cover for guys that were hurt during the Olympics, right? That weren't on the trading block. So
yeah, no doubt.
I think it's going to be a very interesting time. And I do think in some ways, like, you do have to hand it to the NHL for doing the Four Nations tournament, because I think it was a good dry run for what this is going to look like.
It was a good dry run. It got people excited for the Olympics and the players going back, and you had an idea. The teams were probably really happy because they got a real good glimpse of most of the guys that they're going to have on the team. There'll be a few changes. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I just think in terms of figuring out dealing with injuries that happened during the tournament, how that affected the trade deadline, I think all of that was a good rehearsal for what this upcoming season is going to be like. And I think it's good for Danny Briere specifically, given how young he is as a GM, to have gone through that. So he'll have had that experience going into this Olympic year, which is going to be critical, I think. So that is a good thing. And then again, that March 6th trade deadline, of course, will be for all the marbles in the Flyers rebuild. I think this trade deadline and what it means for the Flyers moving forward it's going to be an inflection point, and we're going to look back at it.
I mean, the way I think it's going to go is it's going to be like, are you chasing McKenna or are you chasing a winning record? Like, I think that may be what the chase is, and you have to make a decision.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Now, as far as, league wide here in the looking at the calendar, they have a couple of days where they're going to have all the teams in action. So that's October 11th. Yeah, and October 28th. So that's fun early in the season because they have their other marquee events later.
Right.
So you have like the
Winter fires
Classic.
Things up. That spices things up when all the teams are in action.
Yeah, I love those days. We have the Winter Classic and the other outdoor game in Florida this year, which is new and interesting in some
Tampa,
sort of way.
Tampa location better than I like the Winter Classic location on the surface, but we'll see what they do with it. They usually do good things.
Yeah, I still just don't like that the Winter Classic is on January 2nd. It should be on New Year's Day.
It's the way it is now.
I know. It's just annoying to me. We're going to probably see some additional third jerseys from our opponents this year because there's some anniversaries. So we have Columbus and Minnesota have 25th anniversaries, and then there's a few of the original 6, which again, I hate that marketing term. I hate it so much, but there's a few of those teams that are going to have centennials, so they have special jerseys.
Yeah,
so
I like
we'll
original 6, but I understand there wasn't 6 originally. Like, I get all the, the dealings of it, but I still like the term.
Arbitrary marketing construct.
I know, but once in a while, marketing's good, Rachel.
I know. I'm just saying it's arbitrary. As far as the schedule release videos go, the Flyers was pretty basic, pretty simple this year. And like, to be fair, I was exhausted waiting for the schedule, so I can't imagine having to like spend all that time on a video at an inopportune time of the year. So for them to just take basically screen caps of Gritty punching the guy they dress up as the opponent in the pre-show from home games,
that's fine.
Quick and dirty, make it simple, like, good job, makes sense.
No, I think that was good.
Right?
I mean, I think that was good. I think the Sabres was weird, and I felt like the Islanders
with the chicken wings,
the chicken
buffalo
wings. And I felt like the Islanders could have been exceptional if it was a little shorter. It ran a little long. They lost my attention. But I really did laugh when
Cal Clutterbuck is the intern.
Like, he's always a great interview.
It's
anyhow,
very funny.
He's a natural, and actually, when they do the 2 truths and a lie, that was really good. When he doused himself with water, it was good. But after a while, I tuned out. I'll be honest. But I enjoyed it, and I liked the production value was super high. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, it was. I think the Penguins using the pit as background for it was really, really clever. Always got to give
some of the pit. It's pretty good. I haven't finished it yet.
I love it.
It is a pretty good show.
It's a phenomenal
Who's that? Noah
show.
Wiley. He's a good actor.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal show with one of the best ensembles I've ever seen on television. But that being said, I think the Leafs know that everybody's kind of like making fun of them in a lot of ways, and so they went with the adoptable dog route, which I gotta give it to them, because you can't argue with adoptable dogs.
There is no way to have negativity with that. That's what they realized. That's true. Yeah,
I think that's what
now if they named their dog Mitch, that's a whole different thing. They could have turned that, but
yeah, they could have. Dallas Stars had kids draw the logos of the opponents, which was cute. Cute. There's like stuff like that, but I think overall there was like a solid job around the NHL.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good day for that. Did it take too long? Yeah, it took too long.
It did. All right. We are going to get to your poll results on the biggest goal for the Flyers this upcoming season coming up next. All right. So we asked you this week to answer the question, what is the most important goal for the Philadelphia Flyers to you this upcoming season? And let us know why you picked what you picked. And our options for you were seeing newer or younger prospects play, goaltending stability, a successful season 2 with development for Matvei Michkov, and making a solid playoff run. Those were your 4 options. The top vote getter at 43% was seeing newer and younger prospects play.
Yeah, I think that's makes sense. I think the overriding feeling is that's the way the organization's going. And if you're a fan, that's what you want to start to see. But I understand that there are a lot of other fans that are like, listen, you got to make the playoffs. You got to do this. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I see that this is the way it's trending. So I kind of not surprised.
Right. And this is where I think, our listeners kind of got it right in terms of the percentages here, because making a solid playoff run was in last place at 5%, which is the correct answer, in my opinion.
I think it is too. And especially, again, when you have someone like Gavin McKenna up for grabs, even if you have a certain percent chance, like that does play into it. It just does.
It really does. Now, in second place was a successful season 2 with development for Matvei Michkov. And I think that also checks out for me, because I do think that it's going to be really critical to make sure that he has a successful year 2, because year 1, obviously most goals by a rookie in the NHL. He was in the Calder conversation, even if he wasn't a finalist. And so I think you sort of like check that off, but you're like, okay, now he's got to build a career, right? And so this is about making sure that he's in the best position to succeed because he's your marquee player, at least for now,
Yeah,
based
no, he is.
on everybody we have. And I would say even more so than Porter Martone,
No,
who we
he's more than
drafted,
Martone
right?
right now. Yeah. And just more than because he got there first. I just think that that's right now,
No,
that's the way the focus is. But I always do have to point out as a prospect guy that sometimes prospects in that second year will have a hard time at the beginning of the year. If he does, I'm not going to kill him. I've seen it happen to a lot of good players, and then they eventually figure it out. And now he's had a coaching change. And so that's something where that could affect him. I know everybody
right.
thinks, well, John's gone and it's all for the good and it'll be better. Yeah, I mean, conventional wisdom says yes, but depending on, what Tocchet asks for, that could be a change for him.
Right. And change is change. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter who it's from and
No.
to. It's just that change is sometimes difficult and it's
Right.
transitional. And so for him to do that in year two is a
It's not easy.
particularly difficult task. And so I think they do need to focus a lot of attention on his game. And we had a couple comments to that effect. Andrew said arguments could be made for each option. They're all equally important. Goaltending, of course, but seeing Matt Bay take the next step is key.
Yeah.
And then El Camo 11 said, Mitchkov for me on this list. We need him to become our Kucherov. The younger prospects should play in the other leagues like the AHL, NCAA, CHL. I want them to take their time with prospects. This team is not a contender. And so, yeah, I think that
He's right.
That makes a lot of sense. So you do want to see some of the younger prospects play and see what you got, but you also have to balance that with the proper form of player development.
Yeah. I mean, again, just to point it out, forgetting about that first year for Kucherov, that second year he had 65 points. The third year he had 66. So sometimes the guys don't make a monumental point jump like you think they're going to, but they're getting better. It's just they're getting better.
They're
at
rounding
other
out their
things.
game.
Yeah, they're getting better because then by year 4, or really his third full season, but year 4, he had 85 points. Then all of a sudden he started getting into the hundreds. And so there is a progression.
Yeah, I think so. And so I think that's a really smart way to look at it in terms of using Kucherov. Now, the point totals, I don't know. You got to
I don't know if we'll ever get 125. Like I'm not there yet.
But I think in terms of the kind of progression, I think that's a really apt comparison there for sure. Now, as far as the goaltending goes, it was pretty close. So we had the Mitchkov was at 28%. The goaltending stability was at 24%. So I get that. And we've talked about the goaltending so much on the show, as you know.
It's Philadelphia. You're going to talk about goaltending.
I know, the perennial conversation for Philadelphia Flyers fans. But, we got a couple comments to that effect. And American Wit said it all starts with solid goaltending. And in a lot of ways, that's true. You got to kind of build from defense out, as Keith Jones likes to say. And I know he means the blue line, but
that's part of it.
Goaltending is your last line of defense here.
Goaltender's got to be your best penalty killer. Like there's a lot of sayings for a reason.
Right. And, Big Juicy Germ commented, goaltending should be more reliable to allow our current players and these prospects to be properly evaluated when they do play.
Yeah.
And I think that's the crux of it for me with the goaltending argument here, because it's like you can't really judge what's going on in front of you if your goaltenders are losing you games.
Right. Like there's a point, and it definitely happened to the Flyers last season, where they're just getting a badly goaltended game. And by that third goal, the mentality of the team just changes. You could see it. It's like first goal, they're like, all right, it's not the greatest goal. We're still in this. All right, it's good. Second one's like, all right. And then sometimes that third goal, if it comes too quick or if it's a bad one, then it's like it deflates you as a player. It just deflates you. Like it's a natural thing. Yes, you have to overcome that. But you see teams will sag. Even the best teams will sag at times if their goaltenders continually do this.
Yeah, I agree. But really good and interesting results from y'all as per usual. Excited to get to next week's question, where we will see what y'all think about a new topic here. In the meantime, the other comments out there about options that maybe weren't on the list here, Orange and Black 10 commented, Jamie Drysdale and Cam York becoming true top 4 defensemen that can carry the second pair was the most important thing. I think that was a really interesting
That's a really important fact. I mean,
point.
that's
Yeah.
point. Yeah, that's something where if that happens, that's big for the team. So he's right.
Yeah, love it. Just a little quick note, there is a charity fundraising game for the Hayden Thorson Foundation, which is taking place in Stamford, Connecticut on July 24th. Trevor Zegras' dad is on the board of this nonprofit that the beneficiary of this game, but it's not too far away for Flyers fans, and it's your first opportunity to hear Trevor Zegras being introduced in the Philadelphia Flyers context while playing hockey. So
if you're going to take the drive, there's some nice parks in Connecticut. Like you can go on a nice hike during the day. Yeah, it could be a worthwhile thing.
Yeah, Stanford's not too far, but Jamie Drysdale will be in that game, and ex-Flyers Shane Gostisbehere and Kevin Hayes are also playing. So
there you go.
Should be a lot of fun. So check that out. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen. Today, for your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason. We bring you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. I'm on the Friday show. You can find it on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great weekend, everyone.